The colored man's struggle is not for vengeance, but just for justice, a higher aim than that of his former masters. Frederick Douglass. All right. Good morning. Welcome to another episode of the Liberty Dad Podcast, a discussion on politics and culture. I'm your host, DL, America's most objective libertarian. If you're tuning in live, then I especially thank you for giving me your time so early. All right. We're going to discuss some culture today. We're going to get you people cultured. Wait a minute. Am I allowed to say that? I don't know. It's 2025. People like to say, like, oh, it's 2025. You can't say that. As if like the year is some weird marker as to what you can and cannot say. What am I talking about? Well, as it turns out, if you're familiar with Joey Swoll, he um he made a misstep. He made a couple missteps. So let's start with the background. Who is Joey Swoll? He is a fitness influencer, a bodybuilder. The dude's huge. Okay. Like based on the pictures, I think one of his arms might weigh as much as one of me. Okay. He's a big guy. I mean, he's definitely earned his size in the gym. And he has this brand, at least this social media brand, where his goal is to create a gym culture that is positive and welcoming to anybody. And so what he does is he'll just find videos and he'll comment on them from the gym. Now, normally what happens is it's somebody who's videotaping themselves in the gym, which he doesn't have a problem with. Not in and itself. Like if you're violating the rules or something, that's a different story. But in and in itself, he doesn't care. And then maybe like sometimes you'll see a girl, she'll be, doing her exercise and there'll be some dude in the background and he might glance over at her and she'll be like, this creepo was weirding me out. He kept watching me. And it's like, no, he like glanced at you one time. One time. That wasn't a weirdo creeping out, staring at you. Get over yourself. Right. So he'll criticize those, he'll criticize guys that maybe are a little bit on the bigger side. And like there was one video I saw where an old man he was like laying on the bench on his stomach and he was doing some exercise. Not something I'm familiar with, but I also don't go to the gym very often. And some people they were mocking him. They were like, "Oh, what's this old man doing? It doesn't even make any sense. Why is he here? He just shouldn't be here. He's just wasting his time and blah blah blah." And Joey was like, "Well, actually, what he's doing is this is a modified this, and they actually even make workout benches explicitly to do that exercise to help facilitate that exercise. So yeah, you don't even know what you're talking about." And he calls out everybody: men, women, whites, blacks. He even calls out other influencers. Right, if they like there was one, I think it was a woman, and she was like her brand was like a fitness trainer or something like that, and she might have been the one mocking the old man, because I think that's the one where he's like, "You should know better. If you're a fitness trainer, you should be familiar with this kind of thing, or the fact that people do modified exercises, because, maybe they have a particular need and they're trying to accomplish something very unique. Maybe they've got an injury, maybe they're trying to work out a particular muscle, whatever." So he defends a lot of people. Not only that, he has purchased kids gym memberships. He has showed up to kids that have gotten bullied and, just kind of like give them a little bit of a boost mentally, like, "Oh, wow, this dude on social media with like a million followers, showed up to say hi to me." Right. Like he's genuinely a good dude. Like I think of him in some respect as like the the gym version of Keanu Reeves. It's just like he just seems like a nice guy all around. Unfortunately, he might be too nice of a guy. And so he got in trouble. What did he do? Well, the day that Hulk Hogan passed, a lot of people had a lot to say about him. Some of it nice, some of it not. Now, if you're an old like me, If you're like 47, you remember the Hulkamania days. And maybe you didn't get into wrestling. I didn't, but you couldn't ignore it. You had a friend that was Hulkamania. Like you did, even if you weren't. Like I knew a kid, his name was Tommy. Um, and Tommy was big into wrestling. And he took this like he had this binder and he would take like the plastic slips where you could slide a piece of paper in it, right? And he would draw his own wrestlers and he would slide them in there. Or maybe he drew the wrestlers um that were in I don't know if WWE was in existence at that time. I can't remember. But he would draw famous wrestlers. And then he took some tape and he drew a belt and then he covered it in tape so that he could move it from wrestler to wrestler when when the belt got moved or whatever, whoever won a recent match, whatever, those kind of things. And he kept up on the stats and that was his thing. He was just really, really into it. By the way, he packed a nice punch too, because we got into it one day and he punched me in the nose and I ended up with a bloody nose. That's beside the point. I probably deserved it, I think. And so like I knew people that were really into wrestling. I wasn't, but I knew who Hulk Hogan was. I knew who many of the popular stars at the time were. Macho Randy Savage. All these guys. Jake the Snake Roberts. Like there's a ton of them. You know, um, and so even though I wasn't in it, it wasn't my thing. It was not my scene. I occasionally would watch and be like, "Wow, that's pretty cool," and just Hulk Hogan had this persona that just electrified the crowd. People loved him. And so a lot of people had these childhood memories of Hulk Hogan. And I look at it and I say, fine, that's good. Enjoy your childhood memories because one day you may not be able to remember them all. Our memory is all that we have. And so I think it's a good thing to go back and remember, things that, especially positive things. I mean, if you're sitting there and you're remembering all the negative things that happen, that's probably not such a good thing. I mean, you should remember some of those from time to time, but you shouldn't dwell on them. You should just make a lot more time for the positive memories. And if you don't have a lot, then go make some. But um, so for me, I look at it, I'm like, oh, okay. Now I didn't post any, I just kind of was like, oh, it's very unfortunate that he passed away. It's inevitable. We all will. But I still say it's unfortunate because no matter who you are, no matter how good you are, how evil you are, death comes for us all. So it's one of the very few things where I really don't get involved in the you know dancing on somebody's grave, oh like I'm glad they're dead or they were a terrible person or I just say man that's unfortunate because somebody loved them and somebody is sad. And so at least if nothing else for the living, I have a little bit of sympathy because I think that's the human thing to do. And if you cannot do that, just consider yourself a monster. You're a terrible person. And it's okay to say that. It's okay to acknowledge and just be like, yeah, I'm a trashy person because I want to act toward people, that are living, who are grieving, in a way that I would hate for someone to act toward my loved ones. Yeah, that's a trashy person. So anyway, a lot of people posted, things about him. I posted something simple. I was like, oh, it's just unfortunate. Same as I did with Ozzy Osbourne when he passed away. I was like, oh man, that's really unfortunate. Again, inevitable. They're both in their 70s. That, a little on the early side, but it does happen. People in their 70s die. Um, and so Joey Swoll, he posted this. Let's see. He posted a couple posts, I believe. So here's one. He posts, "Rip to a legend and one of my inspirations to start working out." And then he's got this costume, this Hulk Hogan costume. Like he's got the bandana or whatever you call that thing on the top of his head. And, he's got all the flair, he's got the signature mustache, you know, and he's showing, and this was actually a video. I don't have the video because he's since taken it down. We're going to talk about that. Um, and so he posted, I'm like, okay, great. If Hulk Hogan was an inspiration for you to start working out when he dies, it makes sense for you to pay a little tribute. Okay. Where people make their mistake, and we're going to talk about this, is assuming that if you say, oh man, this guy inspired me to do this thing, Where people make their mistake is assuming that, oh, you must agree with everything they've done in their 71 years of life. So if that's you, you're not very smart. I'm sorry. I'm gonna swing hard today. And if you can't handle it, I suggest you move on. I'm not gonna be very nice because this is absolute peak ridiculousness. What happened? Okay. So yeah, apparently this was an inspiration to him. Great. I'm glad that he inspired. Think about this for a second. Joey Swoll was inspired by Hulk Hogan to start weight training, to start working out. And eventually he became like a giant teddy bear. Dude is super nice. And he spends his time on social media defending people who are not necessarily in a position to defend themselves. That's what he does. Like his whole brand is pushing back against bullies. That's his brand. That sounds great. I'm glad that Hulk Hogan inspired him. Where would we be without a Joey Swoll? In fact, not we. He doesn't affect me. Where would those kids be that he showed up to personally and said, "I hear you. You've been bullied, but I got your back," and help them maybe get a membership at the gym, connect them with some good people, whatever. Just inspire them. Where would those kids be? Did the mob think about that before they went after him? No, they didn't because they don't give a damn. So I'm perfectly content with Joey Swoll paying tribute. He also gave another image here. This is another image here. Boom. Rip Hulk Hogan. I'll never forget when he personally sent me this costume for Halloween. Oh, okay. So not only did he inspire you to become the man, which he inspired you to start working out, which led you to become the man you were, the person you are, right? This defender against bullies. This person that wants to make the gym a safe place, not in the liberal, woke, safe place, a literal safe place. You can go to the gym. You might be a fat body. In your kind of self, you've got some reservations about going in and working out because you got all this blubby, flat, blubby, blubby fat, right? And so you might be a little self conscious. And then you've got people like Joey Swoll that are like, no, come in, and everybody should treat you with respect, right? Like that's who this guy is. Like, so that maybe that's you. That's the kind of, you know, so he's inspired you to eventually become that. And then on top of it, your inspirations personally sends you a costume. Hell yeah, I would have wore it too. The difference is I wouldn't have taken it down. Okay. So here's what ended up happening. So he posted it and people flipped out on him. And they were like, dude, don't you know Hulk Hogan's past? And he's like, well, what are you talking about? And they're like, Hulk Hogan made racist remarks many years ago. He did? Wow. Okay. A lot of people may have forgotten about it. So they first became public in 2015. That's 10 years ago. Okay. For you people that can't do math, it's 10 years ago. Okay. And that was actually from a sex tape in 2007 where he used racial slurs, including the hard N word. That's right. He used the word nigger. He said it. I think he said it multiple times. And there was some weird context. I tried listening to it. It's been a long time. And it had something to do with a guy that his daughter was dating. And he was kind of annoyed by, I think there was simultaneously some sort of situation that he was annoyed by. And then he kind of went off on this crazy tangent, you know, dropping the N word multiple times. And I think that's not the first time he said it. He's said it before. Okay. So in that respect, yes, Hulk Hogan was wrong. Like, you shouldn't say the N word, as particularly, I know I just said it. You shouldn't say the N word in a derogatory manner toward other people or about other people. You just shouldn't. It's impolite, right? But we're all adults here, right? Right? And so People brought that up because that's what people do when somebody dies. When somebody dies, you go digging for all the dirt, and that's how you want them to be remembered. And I'm sorry, family members, I'm just going to say it. I know this is a family show. I'm trying to keep it clean today. People do that. If you're the kind of person that does that, you do that because you're an asshole. Plain and simple. Okay? If the man lived 71, and I'm not going to try to defend everything he said. Like, look, if you say the N word about somebody or about a group of people, you're wrong. Period. Plain and simple. You shouldn't say it. And I'm not going to be like, oh, well, it's okay. No, you shouldn't say it. It's wrong. And it's no less wrong to say, hey, look at the retard over there. If you're looking at I don't know, a kid who has to use a walker or something like that, right? Like a kid that's mentally disabled, and you call him a retard. It's the same concept. You're just being a jerk, and you shouldn't be. And we should condemn that when you are acting that way. But what we should also do is recognize that people change. This was in 2015 when we learned about it. He said it in 2007. And here we are in 2015, and people just can't stop talking about it. And and the story gets a little worse for Joey, unfortunately. So Joey posts this, and I'm like, okay, no big deal. Shouldn't I wouldn't have thought twice. I would have posted it myself. Joey should have posted it. I think he was right to post it. You've got somebody that inspired you to become who you are today. You got somebody who personally reached out and gave you something. That's pretty cool. But and yeah, did he say a stupid thing? More than once? Yes. Is he an absolute racist? I'm not so sure. Now, why would I say that? I wish I had the video. I meant to grab it, and I ran out of time. So if you're familiar with Booker T, he's also a wrestler, and he's a black man. And there's a video that you can find where Booker T is on this like podcast or a show, and Hulk Hogan's not there, but he's called in through the phone line. And so they're having this is like, when was this? This was like 6 years ago. And so they're having this conversation about Hulk Hogan's use of the N word. And Booker T seems very content with Hulk Hogan basically saying, like, yeah, I was foolish. I shouldn't have said it. I've grown since then. Now, why do I bring it up? You might say, well, DL, you're just bringing up a black man saying the thing that you want him to say. Or I'm bringing up a black man who is now 60 years old. So therefore, he's actually spent time, he's lived life during a time when being racist was a bit more acceptable. Okay. So when he was growing up, you could say the N word and not get fired. Okay. You can't do that today. Okay. And I'm not saying like it's okay. I'm just saying like he's had an experience that many of the mob today have not had. More importantly, he actually knows Hulk Hogan. That mob, they don't know him. Most of them have probably never even met him. And if they did, they met him briefly. So what they know is what they see. So I want you to think about it. I want you to just close your eyes for a moment. And I want you to think of Hulk Hogan. And I want you to just imagine all of the videos that you have ever seen of him, all the audio. You want you to compile that all together. And I want you to think, how much time would that consume if you watched all of it straight through? I bet you it's not even half a year. Not even half a year. The man's 71 years old, and you're judging him based on your, not even personal experience, your view of him from afar that comprises probably less than 6 months worth of time. Now, let me ask you, do you want to be judged based on 6 months worth of your life when you're 70? Are you telling me that I can't find 6 months or even 1 month or even 1 hour of your life where you've been a foul person? I can't find that? Because I bet I can. I mean, not in theory, not necessarily in practice, but I bet we can. I'm sure that if you dug back in my history, you'll find sometimes you'll be like, DL, Liberty Dad. Really? You said that? Yeah. Because guess what? People are stupid sometimes. That's why. So I look at it and I go, well, if Booker T, who is also a wrestler, who personally knows him and is black and is old enough to have experienced this time, if he is relatively comfortable with Hulk Hogan's apology, why the hell shouldn't anybody else? Why are we still talking about it in 2025? A lot of people like to go, they like say, it's 2025. You shouldn't say this. I don't know. How about this? It's 2025. You should be dragging up crap that happened almost 20 years ago that you weren't even around to experience, that you heard about like third hand. How about that? How about you grow up and stop acting like a fool? So what did Joey do? Because you might think, well, is that the end of the story? He just posted a picture and, a video of him, exercising with his. No, unfortunately, Joey made it a little worse. So let's see. Let's put this video up on the screen here. So here's his video. This is his Instagram, I believe, and it's a clip of it. I didn't see the whole thing. I just saw this clip, and so he's kind of pushing back on this notion. He starts out by pushing back, and I want you to pay attention. You'll catch it. You'll hear.
Listen, I can post Hulk Hogan if I want to. Just because somebody makes a mistake in their life doesn't mean that they haven't done good things. I don't know what he did. And he said something 20 years ago and apologized for it. If you're going to attack me, you better go after the colored athletes and the people that are black and minority that went and posted him as well.
All right. Did you hear it? Did you hear his mistake? He used the word colored. And that really got people fired up. Now, and I understand it. Like, I get it. I mean, if you think about it, if people are coming at you and they're like, dude, you're supporting a racist, and then you use the word colored, that really, really is not good. Okay. On the other hand, let's think this through. We're objective here on this show, right? We weigh things fairly. Is it possible that somebody has a long history of being a good person could simply use the wrong choice of words? Is that possible? The answer is yes. That's the answer. The answer is absolutely yes, they can. Should he say colored? No. That was poor form. But here's the catch. Is he talking negatively about black people? No. He's just like, look, if you're going to come at me for posting a tribute to Hulk Hogan, then perhaps you be consistent. And, if this is really about racism, why don't you worry about the people who are black and people of color, who are, as he said, the colored folk. He didn't say folk, but the colored people, the colored athletes, right? Why don't you worry about them? Shouldn't they be a little bit more sensitive to this issue than me? Right? Is kind of the gist of what he's kind of saying. And I got a story to kind of tie that in for a second. But let's listen to the rest of this video.
Okay, the man was nice to me. He made a mistake. I'm not God. People make mistakes in life. If you got a problem with that, look at yourself. There's not one single person in here that hasn't made a mistake in their life. So,
okay. Before we listen to this guy, this is a cut. So I'm going to back it up a little bit. He is absolutely correct. There was not one person who watched that film that doesn't have some level of a skeleton in their closet that the mob could go after. Not a single one. Everybody has done something or said something that's not appropriate. Every single person. Everybody. And every person that came after Joey Swoll should hang their head in shame for doing so, because you're just a bunch of hypocrites. And it's disgusting. And you're not making the world a better place. You're making the world a worse place. Because this man, he didn't come out and say, like, oh, those colored people, in a negative sense. He was like, oh, well, the colored athletes. It's very casual. And what we know of Joey is that he's a very good guy. So I think the benefit of the doubt here would be to be like, okay, he just chose the wrong word. He shouldn't have used that word for whatever reason. And yeah, blah, 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 blah. You can give me all the excuses about how it's 2025. Okay, again, I fall back on it's 2025. Why aren't you more resilient to words? I'm 47. I grew up with sticks and stones, break my bones, names can never hurt me. And here you are still bitching about words. I learned that lesson in my teens. Why the hell haven't you in your adulthood? Where have you been? Speaking of 2025, why are you not more resilient to nasty words that people might say? How is it that they make you crumble or they get you so angry when somebody says a nasty word, not even to you or about you? And he was talking about athletes. Are you an athlete? If not, you're not even part of the conversation. You're just getting in how they used to say it when I was a kid, you're all up in the Kool-Aid. You don't even know the flavor. Okay? So let's continue listening because I want to play what this guy says in response to Joey Swoll here.
Problem with that, look at yourself. There's not one single person in here that hasn't made a mistake in their life. So
racism is not a mistake. Cutting off your daughter for dating black men is not a mistake. That was a choice. Yeah.
All right. You know what else is a choice? Acting like you are making the world a better place when you're just simply tearing good people down over a mistake. Okay? So you can argue and we could have this argument and say, like, was Hulk Hogan right? Did he make a mistake? But here's the thing. It's been almost 20 years. At what point do we look and say, perhaps he's changed? Perhaps he's not that guy he once was. Let me spin the tables. Since that was the black man, I'm going to talk to the black community now. There are many black men that are in jail. Some of them will eventually get out. How long should we go, yeah, but you're a felon? How long? That's a choice. Should we hold that same attitude toward black men who willfully committed a felony, got in jail, reformed themselves, got out, and want to start a new life? Is that the attitude we're going with? Because that's a choice. I mean, I'm seriously, I want to know. Somebody throw it in the comments. Tell me, how long should we hold it over a black man's head that he was a felon? 20 years? 30 years? The rest of his life? If a man says something, if a black man commits a felony, let's say he commits armed robbery, and he's 25, and when he's 70, should I go, oh, somebody's celebrating, something that you did? Yeah, but he's a felon. He committed armed robbery. Tell me, black folk, you cool with that? Because I bet the answer is no. And nobody's talking about, hey, we expect people to grow. Was it a mistake at the time? You can argue and say, that's not a mistake. That's a choice. Yeah, you know what else is a choice? Changing your behavior, becoming somebody different. That is also a choice. And it's not one that seems to be on the table for people. But the reality is, it probably really is if you talk to individuals. This is the problem with the mob. This is where Joey really made his mistake. It's not in posting Hulk Hogan. It's not in saying the word colored. It's in apologizing to the mob. That's where he made his mistake. He should have never apologized to the mob because he never really offended the mob. I mean, why don't you think about this? He posted a picture of a man that did a racist thing or said a racist thing, both, I guess, 20 years ago, roughly 20 years ago. Okay? Like, I want you to think about that. Imagine if let me think. Let's say Snoop Dogg dies. I mean, he's going to eventually, right? And then I post and I'm like, man, I loved listening to his rap songs when I was a kid. And imagine if all the white people came out and be like, yeah, but even though he wasn't convicted of a murder, he definitely killed somebody. What? Like, you don't expect that maybe he looks back and say, yeah, I mean, I know he's not going to admit to it. if he did it, but we wouldn't expect him to be like, yeah, a lot of the things that I did when I was younger were dumb and I shouldn't have done them. And I wish I didn't. And hopefully I've raised my kids not to be that way. Right. Like that's what we expect. Right. But and when Snoop Dogg passes away, when any of the famous rappers that were known to be involved in some shady business, some street business, any of them pass away, it's going to be the same situation, right? They did something way back when. Hopefully, they do not support that kind of behavior today, and that they would say, "Yeah, that's dumb. Don't do that." The same way as Hulk Hogan said the N word, right? And then I don't know how the relationship worked out with his daughter. Okay, families sometimes suck, but hopefully he's grown. Now, I will say this. His daughter, I didn't read the whole thing, but his daughter come out with some sort of tribute, and it seemed pretty nice. Like, I skimmed through it. I didn't really read too deeply into it, but it seemed pretty nice. So, it seems like, she recognizes, so, like, here's this man, he's all like, cutting your daughter off. All he cares about is the whole black man part. He doesn't give a damn about the cutting his daughter off. Because if the daughter seems to have reconciled it, again, why hasn't this man, the man we just played, the man you saw that was all like, he was like, that's a choice. Racism is a choice. Cutting your daughter off from going black is a choice. Okay, fine. It's a choice. It's also a choice to keep harboring that ill feeling, even when the person that was actually offended, his daughter, has reconciled it. So you're no better. You are equally a terrible person, just in a different respect. See, this is the problem with mobs going after people. This is the problem with people going after somebody, is that in many cases, you are no less guilty. And we need to be a little more humble in our society. Now, here's where Joey really, really made his mistake. Here's this video.
I owe my followers, my community, and all of social media an apology.
Okay, stop right there. Stop. No, you don't. You don't owe all of social. You never, ever owe all of social media an apology, because at no point ever have you offended all of social media. It is not possible. Now, if you're an influencer or you're somebody that has a lot of followers and you've done something well out of character and your good-hearted followers are kind of upset with you, it would be fair to say, look, for those who follow me and, have known me as this kind of a person, I want to apologize. I was out of character, I was having a bad day, and, we all do it. And, I'm just going to ask your forgiveness and we're moving on. And if you need to leave me and you need to unfollow me, then so be it. This will be the last thing I say on it. And then you move on. At most, that's what you do. In my opinion, the number one rule on social media: never, ever apologize to the mob. The mob is about a power play, nothing more. They are not about making the world a better place. Because if they were, they would weigh things out in the same way that I've been talking about, and they would weigh them out and say, okay, did this man use the word colored in a really intended offensive way? No, he did not. So then they would temper their anger and they would be like, bro, really? Colored in 2025? That's how they would respond, right? And they wouldn't be like trying to drag you hard. They would just be like, dude, you can't say that, bro. Like, no. Right? And they wouldn't make a big fuss of it. They would just let you know. And that's okay. We all make those kind of mistakes. We slip of the tongue, you say the wrong thing, by accident, whatever. And then somebody just says, dude, nah. If they know your character to be upstanding, right? Now, if that fits your character, if you say something racist and you say something racist a lot and you're known to be racist, well, that's a different story. But that's not what's going on here. So this is his huge mistake right here. I think he made a mistake in the last video by really addressing it. He should have just posted it and moved on. He posted his pictures and then left them up, posted his video and moved on. And when people come at him, he should have been like, well, I'm sorry that you feel that way. I'm not going to sit here and drag a man, 20 years after, an incident happens and act like I know who he was today. Right? As far as I'm concerned, he inspired me to go to the gym. I'm a good person. I am just, kind of remembering somebody for the fond memories that I have. If you can't do that, that's a you problem. That's all he should have said. That's it. Let's continue listening.
A few days ago, I reposted an old video of me in the gym wearing a Hulk Hogan Halloween costume on the day that he passed. Last night in my live stream, a lot of people expressed how upset and frustrated they were with me that I had posted that.
Okay, those people can go kick rocks. I'm not joking. They can go kick rocks. If I want to post a tribute to somebody that meant something to me, that's not for the mob to decide. I mean, I want you to think about it. Think about the world that we're living in. We're living in this weird, like woke-ish hippie world where people are like, well, everybody's experience matters, right? You don't understand somebody else's lived experience. Oh, okay. Well, guess what? That's Joey's lived experience. So clearly you don't actually mean about people's lived experiences. You don't mean it. What you mean is your lived experience because you're selfish. That's what you mean. And I'm going to call you out on it.
Instead of listening and understanding like I should have, I became defensive and said that I was posting to celebrate the wrestling icon, the person that so many of us looked up to as kids that we grew up with, that made us tear our shirts and take our vitamins and say our prayers. I didn't know to the extent of all the horrible things that he had done.
Okay. There is some truth there. Hulk Hogan did some terrible things. If I remember correctly, he had an affair with somebody else's wife, right? Like he used the N-word, had some family troubles. He got kicked out of the WWE over the N-word. So like, yeah, he's definitely got some troubles. But again, if you have to go back almost 20 years to find them, I'm just saying, perhaps you expect that the person has grown. And if you can't do that, your opinion means nothing. Nothing to me. It shouldn't mean anything to anybody else. Because the first thing I look at is like, every 20 years, we'll put it this way, every 20 years, and that's pushing it. I would say every 10 years, but let's just say every 20. Every 20 years, you should be a better person than you were prior, right? And I would actually say every 10 years. I might even say every 5 years. In 5 years, you should expect DL to be way better of a person than he was today, than I am today. You should expect that. And you should expect that if you go back 5 years, that I was not as good of a person as I am today. That's the whole point of growing. That's the whole point of becoming a better person. You are not born a good person and then you mess it all up. You are born a person that doesn't know squat, that's trying to figure out your way in the world. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to do the wrong thing. You're going to say the wrong thing. Sometimes it's pretty egregious. And the more egregious it is, the more effort it might take to turn yourself around and to convince others. Okay? But at some point, if we're not going to recognize that people can change, then we are losing our society. And we deserve a giant meteor the size of Texas to blast into this planet. We really do. Because if we're not going to be any better than that, why should we even exist as a species? What's the point? If we're not going to expect that people get better over time. And we actually not only expect it, but we look for it. Nobody was looking for it. Like, I didn't see a single comment where somebody was like, man, I really tried to find where Hulk Hogan has changed and I just couldn't find it. You know why? Because there's plenty of examples of where he's at least telling us he's changed and we haven't heard anything to the contrary. And people that know him personally, well, they seem to be attesting that he's a better person than he was. I don't know. Maybe he is. How about that? Let's listen to what Joey continues to say.
Since last night, I have done a lot of research, talked to a few people, and learned all of the horrible, horrible things that man has done, which is way more than just making a mistake and being human.
Okay. He's groveling. Do not do this. If you're going to be on social media, look, the mob could come after you for something serious or for something stupid. Just the way it goes. Do not grovel. Ever. Ever. Bad. Why? Because the mob's not here to make the world a better place. They're looking for blood, and that's it.
because of that, I have taken the videos down, and I apologize to anybody that I offended. I am sorry. Also, during last night's live stream, I used the word colored instead of saying person of color, which is a very outdated, very offensive term. A few moments later, somebody educated me and told me that it wasn't okay to use that, which I immediately apologized to everyone and said I would never do that again. So once again, to anybody that I offended, I am sorry. You know, my whole page, my whole brand is based on holding people accountable and doing better. I would be a hypocrite if I didn't hold myself to the same standards. I am human. I am still growing. I am still learning. And I promise all of you, I will do better. I have nothing but love and kindness in my heart. I will continue to try to make the world a better place. And once again, to everybody, I apologize.
So I think he made a huge mistake in that apology. Let me give my full self. I think he made a huge mistake in the apology. I don't think people were really looking for an apology. I don't think they're going to believe him, right? The people that hate him are going to continue to hate him. And many of the people aren't even like I did a show on this a while back. A lot of the people aren't even who that you think they are online. You see somebody and they appear to be a right-wing troll. I ran into one. I called him out as being I was like, "Dude, I think you're a Marxist, pretending to be a right-wing troll." And then he said something back that kind of was like a confirmation, right? The way that what he said is something very Marxist, is the context of it. And there are other accounts where people are like, this account is pretending to be pro-Israel, but they're really a Pakistani troll, blah, blah, blah. They don't even live in Israel and they keep saying they are, but here's the evidence against them. Like there are a lot of accounts online that aren't who they say they are. So that's another reason why you shouldn't, capitulate to the mob. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the real reason that you shouldn't capitulate is because they're not accepting your apology. Now, I want to read some quotes to you. I gave you that one quote at the beginning of the show, but I want to read some other quotes. Let's talk about this whole colored thing. Okay. So let's see here. So let's see. Where we go? Boop, 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 boop. I'm looking at them here. Let's see here. Oh, here's one from Thurgood Marshall. Okay. We cannot play ostrich. Democracy just cannot flourish amid fear, and our history is a struggle of the colored people for equality. He said that, let's see, before the Supreme Court in Brown versus Board of Education. Interesting. Let's see, what else we got here? The colored people of these United States are bound together by a common destiny. We must stand united to overcome the trials of our past. Sojourner Truth. Okay, that was a speech at the American Equal Rights Association in 1867. We, the colored race, have endured slavery's chains, yet our spirit remains unbroken, stronger than those who sought to bind us. Ida B. Wells. Let's see here. The colored man's struggle is not for vengeance, but for justice, a higher aim than that of his former masters. Frederick Douglass. Our resilience as colored people lies in our faith and our fight for a future free from oppression's shadow. Mary Church Terrell. Speech at the National Association of Colored Women. Why am I reading these quotes to you? Because, yes, in a certain sense, you could argue and say it's 2025. We no longer use colored. It's also 2025. We no longer use gay as an insult, right? Words change over time. Okay. So, yeah, you got that argument. On the other hand, you could say it's 2025. Shouldn't we be in a more resilient place than people who actually experienced slavery and some of the worst racism? Shouldn't we be more resilient than them? Shouldn't you be able to hear the word colored and be like, shouldn't really be saying that, but whatever. Shouldn't you? Or are we regressing as a people? Take your pick. You can't have both. So either you're as sturdy and resilient as your forebears who literally experienced slavery, who literally experienced racism and vile behavior, or you're not. And if you're not, you're regressing. That means you're less than them. You're supposed to be better. My son, I expect that when he grows up, he's going to be better than me. Like I told you yesterday, he's already better than me at some video games. So there's that. So he's already on his way. But I expect him to be better as an adult and to understand the world even better than I do. And then his son should be better, or daughter should be better than him, who's better than me. We should expect that our progeny and their progeny get better and better and better. Your folk in the past might be rolling over in their graves, hearing you whine and cry because somebody in a nice context said the word colored. Seriously, grow up. Get over yourselves. This is ridiculous. Every black person, I know, you're not going to like this. Every black person should be embarrassed by this. And they should go, we are way better as a people than that. We don't have time to worry about a guy who makes a slip of the tongue and says colored in a context that's not meant to be insulting. You shouldn't have time to worry about that. I grew up, black folk were like, yeah, I wish I had a better credit score. I wish they'd stop redlining. I wish they'd stop passing laws, that were negative toward me. But now I guess we're in such a great situation now that we can worry about things like a social media influencer who says the word colored in a positive context. And I know people go, Dad, rules are positive. I know that's because you're a baby. You're a little child. You haven't grown up. Now let me really hit you where it hurts. This is not new. This idea of the mob, cancel culture, it's not new. You know who else dealt with it? Well, there was a certain man born a couple thousand years ago. And I'm pulling it up right now. I'm going to read it to you. And he dealt with the mob, right? And it cost him his life at some point. You might be like, what? What are you talking about? You're not talking about. If you said, DL, are you talking about Jesus? Yes, I am. Head to the front of the class. Where's my little button? There it goes. So let me read you from John 8, 1-11. Now, I'm not particularly religious, but I do think that there's a lot of value in scripture because I think people at that time had a better understanding of the world because they didn't have all the distractions like social media and ads all over the place, right? Like they could focus on actually observing the world and understanding human behavior. So here's John 8, 1-11. I'm going to read it. But Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. At dawn, he appeared again in the temple courts where all the people gathered around him, and he sat down to teach them. The teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought in a woman caught in adultery. They made her stand before the group and said to Jesus, Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. In the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now, what do you say? They were using this question as a trap in order to have a basis for accusing him. Now, I'm not comparing Jesus to Joey. Okay. That's interesting though. This question, they didn't care about the truth. They were trying to trap Jesus. But Jesus bent down and started to write on the ground with his fingers. When they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said, Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her. Again, he stooped down and wrote on the ground. Now, nobody knows what he wrote on the ground. We can speculate. We can say, well, what did he write? Did he write their sins? Was he writing, what they did? And they were like, geez, he's right. I don't know. At this, those who heard began to go away, one at a time, the older ones first, until only Jesus was left, with the woman still standing there. Jesus straightened up and asked her, Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you? No one, sir, she said. Then neither do I condemn you, Jesus declared. Now go now and leave your life of sin. Now, I'm not comparing Joey to Jesus, okay? What I'm comparing is the Pharisees to the modern mob. They went after Joey. They were not sincere. They weren't looking for an honest apology any more than the Pharisees were looking for a legitimate answer from Jesus. They were trying to trap him. And by the way, if you're curious about how they were trying to trap him, the general consensus, I believe, is that the Romans were in control of society, And what they would do is they would absorb other cultures, and they would say, okay, you can have your rules and your laws so long as they don't conflict with Roman law. And so the law of Moses said, hey, if you're an adulteress, you have to be stoned. But the Roman law said only Romans can condemn people to death. And so the trap, as I understand it, was trying to get Jesus to say, yes, you should stone her. And then if he does that, then they can go to the Romans and be like, look, bad guy, bad guy. Kind of like he said colored, basically the same concept, right? But then if Jesus said, no, don't stone her, then they could be like, this man doesn't even believe in the scriptures. Why would he be your teacher, right? So they were trying to trap him in this particular way, but Jesus was more clever than that. If you're going to be on social media, take a tip from Jesus. You need to be a little bit more clever. Or just listen to some of us olds who will tell you, do not ever apologize to the mob. They are basically modern day Pharisees. Ignore them or even double down. Double down to piss them off, right? That's your only option. The moment you show that you're willing to capitulate, that's basically baring your neck, and they will come for it. And they will not stop, as they didn't. All right, now, Joey had posted something suggesting that he's leaving social media. So I want you to think about this. He posted something about Hulk Hogan, and then he improperly used the word colored, and now he's being chased off of social media. Great job, mob. You did great for the world, because now all of those future kids that might have had an interaction or an inspiration from somebody who's genuinely a good dude, they may not get it. But you got your blood, didn't you? You pack of hyenas. You sure did. You didn't make the world a better place. You just ran somebody off that was good, rather than what you could have done, which is say, dude, we don't really use that word anymore. Black is fine. African American is fine. It's not really the word we use anymore. That's all you had to say. And you know what Joey would have done? He would have been like, oh, sorry about that, and moved on. It could have been simple, but no. The bloodthirsty hyenas were in full force. So as far as I'm concerned, the mob has ruined a good person. He will never be the same. And we probably, I don't want to say probably, I don't want to speculate too hard. We may not get that Joey back, who was a force for good in the gym community. We actually need more Joeys. We need him in all sorts of places. People that'll stand up and, for the little guy, in this case, literally, who will stand up, for people that are being bullied and say, no, that's not acceptable. Now, let me get to some comments here, because I thought some of these comments online were kind of interesting. So let me show you a few. And then we're going to get to some comments here in the chat, and then we're going to call it a day. So let's see. There we go. All right. Let me shrink me a little bit so we can see all the text here. Boom. All right. So this is one. So the apology that you just saw. So this person here, this account, it appears to be a black woman. They posted that video clip, and they said, I want to believe this is a genuine apology, but it comes off more like damage control. The TikTok video spoke volumes about your true feelings toward people of color. It shouldn't take 2 rounds of backlash for you to educate yourself. I see. Should it take 2 or 3 prison sentences for someone to educate themselves on how to behave? There's an awful lot of black men in prison that didn't get it right the first time or the second time. Legitimately. I'm not even talking about the ones that we could argue shouldn't even be there. I'm talking about the legitimate ones. Should we treat them the same way? Is that what you want? You want us to go, you're a 3-time offender. Shouldn't take you 3 times to figure it out. Just stay in jail. No privileges, no rights for you. Is that what you want? Because that's what you're going to get by acting like this. You're acting like a damn fool, and you need to stop. Because what goes around comes around. That's how the world works. You give grace, you get grace. And you have to learn when is the time to give grace. From what I saw of Joey, like his only mistake was trying to fight and then giving in. That was his mistake. I don't care that he posted a tribute to Hulk Hogan any more than if somebody would post a tribute to, I don't know, Tupac Shakur. And they said, hey, man, I became a musician because of Tupac, even though he was involved in some violent stuff. Okay. I'm glad for you, and I hope that you're not a violent criminal, as was Tupac or many other the other rappers that we all grew up in the 80s and 90s listening to. Not all of them were criminals, but some of them were, right? So, in the same context, what goes around comes around. And you will get this same treatment in the future because you've basically said, this is the treatment we want. The treatment that you give other people is what basically you were saying, that's how I want to be treated. So let's see. What's the next one here? This was interesting. I actually thought this was a good comment here. So Cernovich, and I'm not always a big fan of his, but whatever. He said the lesson of Joey Swoll is post through it. Then it's over in 12 hours or less, given the attention span of TikTokers. He's got a point. They always move on to someone else unless you show your neck. Then it's never over. Don't be a prey animal. He's absolutely correct. The mob's not interested in truth. They're not interested in making the world a better place. Have you ever noticed that when the mob takes somebody down, the world doesn't get any better? It doesn't. All we do is we segregate ourselves into people that think like-minded. Because why? Why would I want to put myself out there for a group to try to tear me down? I might as well just stay with the group that's at least going to keep, kind of uplift me and support me. Like, who does that? Nobody, right? Let's see what else we got. Mary King, this was a good one. Some people can't take the canceling stuff and they bitch all the way out. Okay. There's some fair criticism of Joey about this. Here's an excellent rule of thumb for life in its entirety. I'm going to move me just a little bit more out of the way so we can see here. All right. People that love you don't require an explanation. And people that hate you, an explanation will never be good enough. Dead on the money. Absolutely. I didn't need an explanation from Joey because I can watch it and I can see, like, okay, he's struggling a little bit to defend himself, but he's just trying to tell people he's a good dude. It's kind of like back in the day. Remember the defense where people would say, I have a black friend, which I think actually he said at one point. And a lot of people are like, having a black friend doesn't mean you're not a racist. Okay. So what you're not doing in that sense is you're not listening to what the person is trying to say. The person is trying to say, in the experiences that I've had, my black friends don't see me as a racist, and they're the ones that know me the best. So I think it's fair for me to argue that I'm not a racist based on those experiences, right? Like, is it a good argument? Not really. But we have to get to the heart of what people are trying to say. If we want to make the world a better place, that's what we need to be. And we have to be humble. We can't just leap and be like, oh, a bare neck, bite it. Let's see. What else we got here? Matt Walsh. That was a little bit, he had a couple good takes. He had a couple bad ones. So here's one. Influencer Joey Swoll posts a groveling apology for praising Hulk Hogan. He thanks the leftist trolls for, quote, educating him. Absolutely pathetic, inexcusable to cave to the woke mob at any time, but to cave to them in 2025, baffling. He is correct, right? Like, you shouldn't cave to the woke mob. However, if you saw in the description, I said, something about like, did he give in to did the mob come after him? Which mob or something like that? And I said, yes, because not only did the mob on the left come after him for saying the things that he said and posting the tribute to Hulk Hogan, but the mob on the right came after him for giving an apology. So Matt, who's on the right, he has to address the fact that his side actually mobbed Joey too. Like, this wasn't just a left thing. This was a right thing too. They were like, oh, I can't believe you bitched out. Rah, rah, rah. And they made a big fuss over it. Rather than saying, dude, no, you're a good person. Don't let this get to you. We got your back. We're standing with you. You did nothing wrong. That's what should have happened. But no, the right has their mob too. Let's see. I got one more. Now, this one, he's actually responding to that previous Cernovich comment. So he said exactly right, speaking from extensive experience, and Matt would know, 98.5% of the time, you can just ignore the outrage mob, and in a day or two, they'll have gotten bored and moved on. The other 1.5% of cases may require you to address it, but always address it by doubling down and telling the mob to kiss your ass. And he's correct, right? Now, let me say something, because a lot of people come back and they'll go, yeah, but if you've offended somebody, shouldn't you apologize? Yes, you should apologize to individuals. You don't apologize to this random mob of people for whom you do not know. That is not who you apologize to because you didn't really offend them. They got offended because they chose to be offended. They heard something not addressed to them, unrelated to them, had nothing to do with them, and then they got offended. Okay? If you got offended because he posted Hulk Hogan, that's a you problem. It's not a Joey problem. Okay? He didn't say like, "Oh, I love Hulk Hogan and all the racist things he said." I mean, in that case, you might want to swing at him, metaphorically. But he didn't actually offend you. So you apologize to individuals. The time and place to apologize maybe to a group of people might be like, let's say that you're a manager and you have a team of, I don't know, 5, 10 people. And let's say that you do something that's out of character and you let the team down. I don't know what it is, but you do something. And and they're kind of all upset with you because they're like, dude, what the hell? Well, then it might be appropriate to come back to them and say, all right, team, look, I did this thing. It was out of character. It's something that you would have expected otherwise. I want to give you my apology and just let you know that I recognize it and we're going to move on and I'm going to do better. That's fair. I can respect that because those are the specific people that you've interacted with. You apologize to people that you've specifically interacted with. If you just say the N word and then people come at you and they're like, I can't believe you said the N word. And I'm like, who are you? I don't owe you an apology. I don't even know you. I wasn't talking to you. You weren't on my mind. Like, I owe you nothing. At best, Joey should have just said, look, if you're one of my followers and you heard me say colored, yeah, I got that one wrong. And I don't know why I used it, but I did. I won't be using it again. Thanks for calling attention. That's the most he should have said. But in reality, I think he should have posted the tributes to Hulk Hogan. And when people came at him, move on. Just ignore it. Whatever. This is my memory. You have your memories. I have mine. Period. And I'm not going to interfere and tell you that your memories are bad because I don't like particular characters that are within them. And you don't get to do the same to me. That's where we should be as a society. And if we're not there, meteor. All right, let's go to some comments here. And let's see what you guys are saying up in the chat. Let's see what we got here. Jen Lina, I think. We all make mistakes. How many do we get away with? Some are unlucky to get caught, and yes, due time, but the probation is to give you the chance to redeem yourself. Absolutely. If we're not going to be a society that offers this path to redemption and then really means it, there's no point in humanity existing, right? Climate change can just take us all out. That's where I am. Every last one of us. So, I do believe everyone can change and it's a choice, but they don't have tools to make the change a lot of the time. Change is hard. It is. It is hard. And sometimes people have to work on it, right? And sometimes I know people will be like, well, but you're old enough to know better. Yeah, that's an argument to have. But sometimes people have grown up misbehaving and then it really becomes pronounced when they're an adult. And then they get the backlash and then they have to do the hard work to become a different person, right? And sometimes it's an offensive thing. Sometimes it's just them. Just like, I see fat people, and I mean really, really fat people, and I'm not being mean, but I'm just saying people that are like 300-400 pounds, and they're posting videos of them going to the gym and exercising. And I'm like, congratulations, good job. That's awesome. And they're like, hey, I lost 2 pounds this week. And they're still like, 350 pounds. I don't go, oh yeah, but you should have never been fat in the first place. I mean, yeah, in theory, but they are there now. So our job as a society is to figure out, are we going to support their journey that's going to take some work, or are we not? We support people that are overweight, losing a lot of weight, despite the fact that it might take, months or even years to get there. We support alcoholics who have to work really hard to not be an alcoholic. We support people that are terrible with finances. We support people with anger issues. We support people that have been felons, right? Or at least we should. We don't always. So yeah, at the end of the day, I look at it and I go, we can support somebody that says the N-word too. And if you can't, you're not important. You're not important enough to even talk to. Let's see. Kagela says, glad to see y'all. Glad to see you, Kagela. Appreciate it. All right, folks, that's my show for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, for chiming in. Let me double check and make sure that Facebook, no comments on the Facebook. Any comments over here on X? Let's see. Just want to make sure we don't miss anybody. Nope, I don't see any comments. So we're gonna move on out. Again, remember, I will not be streaming tonight. I will actually be on somebody else's podcast. I'm going to be on Kyle Matovic's podcast. His podcast is called, is it Health and Liberty? I think it's Health and Liberty. So he's a brand new dad to be. I think his daughter is going to be born in like 2 weeks. And so he's doing like this dad series where he's bringing on a bunch of dads, just talk about dad stuff. So I'll be on that. I will try to post all the links so that you can watch it, but I believe I will be on his show at 6:30. So look forward to that. Check it out. I'll do my best to get those links spread out everywhere across all socials. But for now, it's time for us to get the heck out of here. So I will see you folks later. One last comment though, throw this one up on there. Wisdom comes with age. Knowledge doesn't. Else all 70-year-olds would be brain surgeons and theoretical particle physicists. I can't even say the word. That's how much wisdom I need to have yet. So absolutely agree. If you're 70, I expect a whole lot more than if you're 50, 40, 30, or 20. You should too. With that, have a good one, folks.